Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap from June 23rd until July the 7th. Let's begin with Seiko and their new limited release reference SJE09. Looking at the swatch, it looks suspiciously familiar. It's once again a re-release reissue of 1965's 62 Moss Legendary Diver Watch. If you are into Seikos, you know this model very well. It's the diver watch from Seiko. And Seiko knows that, so they've been really milking this 62 Moss model year after year. If you recall, in 2017, they did the same thing, even a limited release to the same number of watches, 1,965. The reference of that re-release was SLA017. That release was priced higher than the current limited release, so I believe that release was over $4,000. The new limited release is $3,500 which is quite a bit of money, especially for the movement. You're only getting caliber 6L35 automatic movement. It's not a bad movement, but it's not the best movement Seiko makes, especially for $3,500. I understand it's a limited release, but it's a pure money grab. The previous limited release, the SLA model, featured 8L35 automatic movement, which is sort of the best movement Seiko makes outside of their Grand Seiko movements. From my understanding, it's pretty much a Grand Seiko movement, just not finished to the Grand Seiko level. But in terms of accuracy and reliability, is the same. Well, these 6L movements are much worse. And I don't know why Seiko is trying to squeeze every dollar out of this limited release. I think it's gonna sell out either way, but for $3,500, I'm a bit disappointed. Speaking of disappointing movements, let's talk about Piaget Polo Field watch. This watch is very clearly Patek Philippe Aquanaut alternative or an homage, whatever you want to call it, depending how cynical you want to be with this watch. And just looking at the watch itself, it's pretty attractive. I mean, if you're into this case shape. Personally, I'm not, but if you are, all right, the dial looks complicated enough. It also has a date at the 6 o'clock position. The case finishes are quite nice. The watch is also nice and slim on your wrist, which is important for these luxury timepieces. What separates a cheap homage and an expensive homage is the thickness of the case, because thinner cases, thinner movements are just harder to engineer. On the wrist, this watch should look pretty good. I also like this rubber strap integrated into the case, very Aquanaut-like. The thing that kills it for me is that for almost 14, how much is it? $15,000, you're getting this in-house caliber G0A48023 automatic movement. All right, fair enough. What's wrong with the movement? Look at these finishes. What's going on here? This is an ETA. This is a Celita movement, pretty much. I mean, maybe slightly higher finishes, but not by much. What are you doing, Piaget? If you want to charge $15,000 for a watch, you better deliver. You can't just coast on the alternative marketing. You can't just coast on, hey, this watch looks like Aquanaut, it comes from Piaget, you save a bunch of money, why don't you just buy this instead of the Aquanaut, because Aquanauts are impossible to buy and they're multiple times the price of this watch. Yeah, if you're gonna do that, at least provide better finishes on the movement, especially if you're gonna do a display case back. This one is a pass for me personally, but hey, let me know in the comment section below what you think about this watch. Maybe I'm just being too harsh. Moving on to another watch that I'm going to be quite harsh on, the new AP Royal Oak Offshore Anniversary release. The AP Offshore version of Royal Oak turns 30 this year. All right, a pretty good date, pretty good anniversary. Watch companies love to take advantage of these round number anniversaries. Let's see what interesting out of the box thing has AP cooked up for us. If I had any sound effects, I don't know how to do them, but it would be wah, wah, wah. What is this? They're just really being lazy with this release. It's sort of copying the Rainbow Daytona and Rainbow Daytona did it way better. Out of the 5 different versions, I guess my favorite is the rose gold with the black dial and the rainbow bezel, but I don't like it. I mean, I don't like any of them. I think they're all looking very ugly, especially the one in the black ceramic case with these sort of levels for audio producers or whatever. I guess AP knows who their market is. It's probably people that are in the music industry or some sort of entertainment industry that would buy these watches. Certainly not for me, especially at the price point. If I had that much money to spend on a watch, this would not be on my list. I don't know, this just kind of shows that people that have a lot of money don't have a lot of taste. Just very, very ugly. Moving on to the last release I want to talk about. This is actually a release from 2 weeks ago. I just haven't made one of these videos last week. So let's highlight it in this week. Of course, we're going to talk about the Tudor Pelagos FXD Red Bull Racing sailing team, a team that won America's Cup twice, apparently. I don't know much about sail racing or sailing or boats in general, but this release actually looks pretty good, and there are some unique things about it that I think represent a sort of bigger picture for Tudor. The first takeaway for me personally is that I think Tudor is trying to create a sub-brand with the Pelagos name. We've seen that before with their FXD release last year, and now this year we see another couple of models added to the Pelagos family. I think what Tudor has done with the Black Bay line of watches, they're going to try to do with the Pelagos line of watches, and I think it's actually very smart because Pelagos is sort of this underrated line of watches in a watch community. They represent some of the best value for money watches on the market. The second part is actually tying into the price. What surprised me is that this release, the Red Bull Racing Special, costs less than last year's Marine Nationale watch, which is kind of surprising. Usually watch companies try to increase their prices, but in this case, Tudor actually priced the model lower. Now, what about the watches themselves? They both have titanium bezels, bidirectional, by the way, not unidirectional. And also, if you notice, the bezels are actually counting down instead of counting up. So at the 10-minute mark is actually 50-minute, and it goes down from there because this watch is made for a specific purpose, which is sailing, not a diver type watch. Kind of interesting, kind of different. Also, the bezel is made out of titanium and has a carbon insert. And usually companies will charge a lot more money for watches like this. In terms of the styling, I actually really like how these watches look. They are a bit on the larger side. Out of the two, I actually prefer the chronograph. I think it looks very cool, and I really want to get my hands on these watches. One thing to note, they don't come on the bracelets like the standard Pelagos model does. They come on these canvas straps, and I believe they have soldered lugs, so you can't actually even put a regular titanium Pelagos bracelet on these watches, which I don't really like. Why do that? Just give them regular lugs, so if you wanted to, you could put this watch on a bracelet, because Pelagos's bracelet is quite nice. It has both the diver's extension as well as the micro adjustments, and even has a little spring that makes the watch much more comfortable to wear, especially on those hot days. So why not add the ability to put this watch on a bracelet? I just don't really get it. That's the only negative for me. Everything else is pretty good about this release, and hopefully I'll get a chance to review one of these watches in the future. And that's it. That's the video. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you like, what you don't like from the releases that I mentioned. Did I miss any releases? I always enjoy reading your comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.